Hi there. In this video we're going to have a look at how to filter two pivot tables but just using one button. So let's have a look. Okay, here are our two pivot tables and we can see that they're aggregating the sum of net sales from our connected data set, and in one pivot table it's being aggregated by product and in the other pivot table by partner. Let's just have a quick look at the data set. So here's our data set. It's just a set of sales data for a fictitious company. We've got some net sales, some gross sales, some COGS, and we've got various different ways that we can filter our information. This data set has got sales transactions for 2 years, 2016 and 2017. Now, as I said, both pivot tables are connected to that one data set, and that's important for this technique that I'm going to show you. You can't filter two different pivot tables from two different data sets using one button at all unless you're using PowerPivot. Okay, so we've got our two pivot tables here. Now, at the moment, both pivot tables have got the transactions from both 2016 and 2017 in there. Now, if I wanted to just filter the data sets in both pivot tables by year, just say for 2016, then what I'd have to do is open up the field list, grab the year field and put it in the filter pane. We'd then get our filter come up in our pivot table, and from there we could just filter the information to 2016 or 2017. Okay, so I've chosen 2016 there. But of course, just putting that filter on doesn't then filter the pivot table to the right-hand side. If we want to filter that table as well, then we need to put in the year filter into the filters quadrant for that pivot table as well. Okay, so there we go. Now both pivot tables are filtered to 2016. But of course, we can use another option. We can use slices. So slices do more or less the same thing as filters, but they're a bit nicer to look at, and they're quite good for sorting out reports that might go up to a reviewer that doesn't perhaps know pivot tables as well as the person that's created them. So if I send up this information up to a reviewer, for example, then they might look at the pivot table filter information and just go, well, what do I do with that? How can I play around with the data set because I don't know what to do with the filters? However, slices, on the other hand, just present some nice buttons that show the reviewer exactly the information that they can filter by. So let's have a look at putting one of those in. I'll just take the filters out of the pivot tables. And then I'll select one of the pivot tables. Then I'll go to Pivot Table Analyze. And then Insert Slicer. From there, a menu then pops up and it shows all the fields which are in the dataset which support the pivot table. So I'll use the year field. And there we go, up pops a new text box which has got some buttons in it, and the buttons in it are the values which are in our year field in our connected data set. I'll just do a bit of formatting and resizing. Okay, so there we go. So this button now might be quite a bit easier or simpler just for a reviewer just to pick the information that they want to do their filtering. And as we can see, if I just select one of the years, I'll choose 2016 again. Then the pivot table that the slice is connected to changes just to show the information, the transactions which took place in 2016. But that doesn't answer our original question. How can we use this slicer to filter both pivot tables? Okay, so what we do is just right-click the slicer and then select Report Connections. Okay, then another menu pops up showing the two pivot tables which are within the workbook. And now all I need to do is just select the second pivot table. Okay, now you might have seen that the second pivot table's data has now changed as well, but I'll just select 2017 this time just to show that the numbers in both pivot tables change. There we go. We can see that the slicer now filters both pivot tables.